Shalom, family. Just wanted to share a thought that I was having about how we think versus how the Most High thinks. When we are, for most of us, when we're desiring some fruit, right? If you want an apple, you want an orange, you want a pear, you want some grapes, whatever the case may be. Most of us are in environments where when we want that, we go to the store, right? We go to the grocery store, and what do we buy? We buy exactly the fruit that we want, right? We buy an apple, you take it home, you eat it, and that's it. So, but when the Most High has something in mind, it's a different process that He allows to unfold. So the Most High, for those who are in more in environments where they're able to deal with agriculture and where they're planting and gardening and doing those different types of things, have a different type of mindset. And it's like, so if you want apples, you get apple seeds, you put it in the ground, and then what do you get? An apple right away? No, you get a tree. You go through this long process. So you want apples, you have a vision for apples. You may have an appetite for apples, but you're not going to get an apple anytime soon. If you go to the store, you might buy a pack of seeds, and on the front of the pack it says apples. You see a picture of a nice apple, and but you open up the pack and it's full of little small seeds, and these seeds now have to be taken and put into the ground, covered up with dirt, and it's going to be quite some time before you're able to eat of the fruit, before you're able to eat an apple, eat oranges, eat whatever fruit, pears, or whatever the case may be. It's going to be quite some time before you get that, because the seeds are going into the ground and starting the process of creating a tree. And so when the Most High does, when we do something, we think about that instant gratification. We just want what we want. We see the fruit that we want the fruit. We have an appetite for it, we want it. That's it. We go straight for the end goal. We're looking at the end result. We're usually looking short term. We're looking for short term gratification. We're looking for usually just us or just our immediate people. But when the Most High does things, He's looking long term. He's looking for a larger harvest. He's looking for a larger impact, and He understands the need for a process to happen. He understands that, if you want this to be something that's going to be impactful, that first, the seed going into the ground, which is counterintuitive, the first thing that happens is roots start to grow downward, right? Roots start to grow downward. We're waiting for something to pop up, but the first thing that has to happen is the roots got to start to form downward, and then as those roots start to sprout out, then you'll see the stalks come up out the ground, and you have to go through this long process of that growing up, and being built up into a stalk and into a trunk and strengthening it. And then it's going to branch out. You're going to get branches. Then you're going to start to get you'll start to get flowers and leaves and then flowers, and then eventually the branches are going to be strong enough, and then it's going to start to bear fruit. But that's a long process between having a desire, having something that you want, taking the seeds. If it was us, we'd have it where you could take the seed, put it in the ground, and then the apple starts to grow up out the ground, because that's what we want. We want the fruit. But the Most High He thinks different than how we think. He understands the need for that process, because once that tree is firmly established, rooted and established and built up, and has the branches to bear and the leaves and that process to bear the fruit, because we have to be able to bear fruit. We have to be able to bear the fruit. Otherwise the fruit will be too much for us. We can't carry fruit that we aren't equipped to be able to bear. So of course He's planted us as seeds. He's scattered us as seeds throughout the lands, right? He scattered His people, Yisrael. He scattered us as seed throughout the lands, right? And all those who are of Him, He scattered that seed throughout the land, and he's growing us into trees of righteousness. He's growing us up into trees of righteousness, right? And through this process, we have to go through. We have to go through and endure that whole process before we get to the point where we're able to bear the type of fruit that's going to be able to feed many, that's going to be able to nourish and feed many people. Because that's the goal, is for Israel to be able to be a light, to be food, to be able to feed the nations, to be able to feed many, to be nourishment unto him, because we're getting our nourishment from him, right? So it's a process. It's a long process, and we have to be able to endure that process, endure that dark time under the ground, endure the building up, endure, be nurtured, endure this process before we can get to bearing the actual fruit that's going to be able to be nourishment. So we have to think the way that he thinks, that long term, what's going to affect and impact many, and what's going to be for the long term and for the whole. So that's how the Most High works. That's how he thinks. He doesn't think small like us. He thinks big. He's thinking about, and not so much that is big, but he's thinking about the whole. He's thinking about the whole. Like Shalom is dealing with wholeness and completeness. So he's looking at the whole being complete, with everything that it needs, nothing missing, everything that's necessary there. So I just wanted to share that. I was just thinking about that process that we have to go through, and the perspective we have to take. A lot of times we're looking for fruit prematurely. We're looking for fruit, and we're not appreciating, because the tree is doing what it's supposed to be doing as long as it is growing, and until it gets to that point of the fruit that's going to feed in it. Because in the meantime, the tree is still feeding its environment. When it comes to the part that it plays in the ecosystem, when it comes to the oxygen and all the various things, it's still playing its role. So it's hallelujah for the roots, hallelujah for the branch, for the trunk growing up, hallelujah for each branch, each leaf, each flower that blossoms. You know what I mean? Hallelujah for that whole process. It's all an unfolding. It's all an unfolding for his esteem. So hallelujah for that whole process. But we have to start to see and embrace the hallelujah for that process. It is not always easy. We have to embrace the seasons, because there's a season of fruitfulness, then there's a season of barrenness, as we go through the seasons, so we have to be able to endure and appreciate and understand the different seasons that we have to go through and endure. There's a season that there's sometimes pruning that's necessary, so we have to appreciate that whole process and begin to see things the way that the Most High sees things and how he does things. And I think that one of the biggest disservices and it goes in having us move into cities and things and out of the land where we learn agriculture, is that agriculture that the environment of growing and being in the land that the Most High intended for us was to learn, was to perceive, was to see a reflection of him and a reflection of ourselves and what he's trying to build us up into. So as we return and understand those ways, we can grow, we can understand. That's how he teaches us through many of the parables and stories in the scriptures, is through the land. That's how he's done it from the beginning, and it's a beautiful thing. So just wanted to share that thought with you, family, and shalom.